Who are the top 5 WrestleMania opponents for Gunther? Next. Gunther has gone MIA after defeating Dragon Lee when he ripped off his mask, forcing a quick tap out on the March 2nd Monday Night Raw, so he's now missed 3 straight Raws for, well, no reason at all. AKA WWE doesn't have a clue what to do with him, as reports indicate that he was supposed to fight Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania, presumably in another retirement match. This clearly is what the WWE has been building to in his rivalry against Dragon Lee, so that Rey could jump in after the disrespect Gunther showed Lee for ripping off that mask. But with Rey out with broken ribs and seemingly not being able to be back in time, WWE can either leave Gunther off the card entirely or find him a new opponent for WrestleMania. Surely WWE can't go with the former route, as that would seemingly prove that they can waste anyone and potential career-defining moments after he was chosen to be the one to retire John Cena by making him tap out. But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, so let's count them down from 5-1 on who Gunther should be fighting at WrestleMania 42. First, a couple of notes. Yes, we are specifically excluding Rey Mysterio due to that injury, and the man who many of us, including me, thought he would be retiring at WrestleMania, Chris Jericho, as he remains under AEW contract due to his contract being frozen. But hey, if either of them want to surprise us and show up, I'm all for it. So let's start the countdown at number 5 with Ilya Dragunov. Gunther by some other name, and Dragunov battled over the NXT UK Championship in 2020 and in 2021 until Dragunov defeated him to end his 870-day reign with that title. So there's clearly some important WWE history here, but their last televised match was that title change in August of 2021, so I think we would all welcome a match that clearly could be a contender to be the match of the weekend if they just let them go. It makes some sense in Dragunov's storyline as well. Now that he's taken that shot and lost to Carmelo Hayes again for the US title, he can go back to searching inside himself to earn a new title opportunity. And there's no better way for him to prove it than by beating a man who's almost always a champion and pretty much wins every match. So if Gunther gets an opportunity to have an open challenge of sorts at WrestleMania because there's no one he can retire, Dragunov should jump at the opportunity to see if he stacks up to the very best. And sure, I think he loses this match too, but that'll just accelerate whatever path he's on back on SmackDown post-Mania, while Gunther can actually get some vengeance for losing that NXT United Kingdom title all those many years ago. The only negative is that I'd love to wait to see this match until it is for a championship, but WrestleMania makes some sense as a one-off exception. Before we go any further, I want to give a shout out for an honorable mention right here. Should Gunther have an open challenge just like the one I described, the other person that I'd like to see answer it is Joe Hendry. Yes, he answered the call last year with Randy Orton, but now he's an NXT champion, and since Stand and Deliver will not be in Vegas on Mania weekend this year, there is no NXT representation. Whether or not he holds onto that title at Stand and Deliver, he can be the one NXT superstar to have a match on Mania weekend. And even though he'll surely lose again, it could be a springboard to him joining the main roster. At number 4 is LA Knight. Yeah, Gunther and Knight have already had a match at the biggest show of the year, for NXT at least, at Stand and Deliver in 2022, which was Knight's last match in Gunther's next to last match on that brand. They've only fought once more on TV since then, which was in December, and the last time is now tournament final, when Gunther made Knight tap out on SmackDown. But back on Raw, Knight can continue to have issues with both the Division and also the Usos, so after Knight helps the Usos retain the tag titles, since it is a street fight after all, Heyman can argue for one more rematch at Mania against those Usos for the title. But Jay will again pop off backstage about bloodline business tonight, and Knight will say that he simply had it trying to help them against their common enemy. So as Knight storms off in a different direction, he'll run into Gunther, who will be standing there and laughing while watching the whole thing. Knight will of course take exception to Gunther's disrespect and say they are both free for Mania, so let's do this there. Gunther agrees, saying it'll turn out just the same as the last time, with him tapping out like a little... And it almost will, because Knight will refuse to tap, so Gunther will make him go to sleep instead. So while the big negative is that we all want to see Knight pick up a big win for a change to start his title hopes, an honorable showing like this against Gunther is still pretty good. Penta comes in at number 3, and Penta has fought a lot in his year plus on Raw, as he had 40 televised matches in 2025, which was first of anyone that spent the entire year on Raw, and leads again in 2026 with 10 more matches. But he somehow has avoided Gunther's wrath, in televised matches at least, except with Gunther eliminating him in this year's Royal Rumble. So I think it's safe to say that these two would put on an absolute show stealer. With no one to retire right now, and with a World Heavyweight title match already set, Gunther returns to demand a title match to regain that title that he held for a record 666 days. Adam Pearce is reluctant to give it to him, so Gunther destroys Dragon Lee yet again in the ring until Penta is forced to run out to save him. Penta then goes back to Pearce and with his Cero Miedo mantra says to make that match official, so Pearce agrees. Gunther then can hold on to that title again and continue to fight and defeat the Luchadors until Rey is ready to return, and then retire him in a title versus career match. But it really should be Dom who retires Rey, so maybe Rey can pull off an upset there and get Gunther off of the IC title and off of the career killer gimmick. At number 2 is Javon Evans, and Gunther already beat Evans in the first round of the Last Time Is Now tournament in November when Evans was still in NXT. But Evans got a measure of revenge by winning in the Elimination Chamber qualifier triple threat match against Gunther and Dirty Dom. But Gunther was not involved in that particular decision. Still, this can make for a third leg in a trilogy, and I think we'd like to see their contrasting styles go head to head again on the biggest stage of them all. Evans came up to Lee to give him his flowers after losing the IC title match to Penta, so perhaps these two can team up in a tag match against Kofi Kingston and Grayson Waller. This time, Gunther can interrupt the match to take another bite out of Lee, with Evans eventually saving the day. It is WrestleMania season after all, so with Gunther taking exception to this, and with Evans stealing that win at the qualifier, Gunther will get his match against Evans at WrestleMania. And I will also note here that we could go for a triple threat or a fatal four-way for the IC title involving Gunther, Penta, and Evans and Lee, which would be a lot of fun. And the number 1 man that Gunther should fight at WrestleMania is Carmelo Hayes. Gunther's only match against Hayes was in the second round of the Last Time Is Now tournament, defeating him by pinfall. So it is safe to say that we'd be happy to see this match yet again, and of course you know that this match would go down as a US title open challenge at WrestleMania. Now that Hayes has dispatched of Dragunov yet again for his 8th successful title defense, the most obvious names to dethrone him are Trick Williams and Sami Zayn, but they seem to be on a collision course for each other. So how about if Hayes defends that title a few more times before WrestleMania, and on the final SmackDown before Mania, Aldis calls him into his office to say that there is no challenge tonight because he has arranged for an open challenge tomorrow at WrestleMania. So sure enough, with Gunther continuing to be MIA for Raw, for still no apparent reason, he answers that challenge to defeat Hayes and become the US champ. If you watch my Booking WrestleMania 42 videos, the first 2 of those videos after WrestleMania 41 and then after SummerSlam both included me picking Gunther to defend the US title in Fatal 4-Ways. So you know that I would love to see him switch brands for a bit and hold the US title. And with no WWE draft currently on the horizon, this is a great way to do it and to get the US title away from those open challenges for a bit. And there's also certainly no shame in Hayes losing the title to Gunther, as his trajectory will still be going straight up. So will Gunther return and get a match at WrestleMania? He better, and he also better meet one of these men in the ring. But if you didn't meet me in this week's Stop the 10 Count, be sure to go right on over here, where I discuss the Usos' continued involvement with CM Punk and Roman Reigns. So until next time, I am the SportsZu, and this is still a podcast that needs a new name.